Okay, I'm very excited to get this parcel. You may have seen my recent video about the Sony VAIO PCG505 series and the rise and fall of that. And in this box, I think it's something that relatively similar to those machines. If you've followed my channel for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of Dell laptops, Sony VAIO laptops, and ThinkPad laptops. And I'm hoping in here there's a VAIO. So let's open it up and have a little look. It's not clear how I'm supposed to be opening this up. I've got a feeling I can take all this tape off in one go. That would be so satisfying. Perfect. It's brought a little bit of joy to my life. Right, still haven't got in here yet. I think this has been stuck down with good old-fashioned glue. That's something you don't see very often these days. Yeah, definitely someone has used a glue to seal up this box. It's a bit old school. Recyclable packaging, I'm a big fan of that. It weighs more, so I'm sure the postage companies are too. Ta-da! Perfect. So again, this is a complete gamble on my part. I don't know whether this is working, it was told as not working, but it looked in pretty good condition. And I do have a charger that should fit it, I think. So just looking at the outside, there's nothing damaged on the top. Nothing damaged on the bottom. Batteries in place. Oh, it's one of those double-handed ones. Batteries in place and not leaking. Let's stick it back in for now. It's good. It's actually a little bit smaller than I thought it was going to be in the photos, and that is great. That is perfect. So what exactly is this? It's a VGN T1XP from 2004. So basically this came out pretty much as soon as the 505 series ended. So there was another laptop called the 505, which wasn't really a successor to the Super Slim series. I think spiritually this is more like it. It's small, it's thin, it's light. It's got a similar sort of process to the last 505 in that it's a Pentium M, but this actually includes an optical drive as well. So this is really an all-round excellent little machine. I don't know if it's working. I don't know if it's got a hard drive in it. I don't know if it's got the original OS, whether we're going to have trouble finding the restore media for this. Almost certainly, we do with Sony's all the time. But this is essentially a fairly modern laptop in design, just with a Pentium M in it. So it's a little bit slow, I think, but let's plug it in and see what happens. Okay, so we don't have any power indicators or charging indicators. That's a little bit of a worry. Let's press the power on button, see what happens. Okay, get power. I can hear a hard drive. And we've got the VAIO logo. Okay, so it's not happy about something. That's almost certainly going to be the CMOS battery being dead. It is. Now I know this is working, let me put the video capture in and we can have a look at the screen in more detail. So yes, unbelievably, even though this is super mini, it's actually still got a full-size VGA out. We'll go through the ports in a little bit. Let's just turn it on again. So there we go, that lovely VAIO logo. This is the slightly weird one where it comes in from the middle with the bars first. I don't like it as much as the original one, but it's, you know, perfection is perfection. What can you do? So I can hear the optical drive spinning up as well. So is there something in there? It says boot, any key to boot from the CD or DVD. So there is an optical drive in there. Okay. I'm wondering if somebody's found the original restore media. We're now booting into Windows XP. So this thing is in overall good condition. What it's not suffering from, amazingly, is plastics and rubbers that are melting. That's a really common problem with Sony VAIOs from this era. The date or time on the computer is wrong, probably, if the CMOS is dead. Oh, okay, trackpad's not very responsive. I think that may be just because the hard disk's still spinning. Yeah, there we go. Single core processor, don't forget. So it looks like we have a default Windows install, but do we have a VAIO install? Let's have a look at these. Okay, we've got VAIO update installed, so maybe this is a VAIO specific install. I've got some VAIO programs in there, so that's good. This touchpad is not super great. Okay, so it doesn't say in this window that it's a Sony VAIO product, so I suspect what's happened is someone's used a default Windows XP install and then loaded in some of the VAIO software rather than actually having the original restore media. That's a little bit of a shame, but we have a functioning machine. Unbelievable. That is really, really good. Do we have all the drivers in here? Yeah, looks like it. Okay, so we have a functioning machine. That's really good. Let's have a look at it in a bit more detail. First of all, we're going to go into the BIOS and see what information is in there. We haven't got display expansion turned on, so we've got a very tiny little window in the center of the screen. So the BIOS version is R005 to G7. No specific date attached to that. It is a GB version of the machine as given by the model number there. Obviously system date is completely wrong. Let's try and correct that. Oh, it looks like it's American style currently, so 04, 29, 2025. Time's completely wrong, but I'm just going to leave that alone for now. Memory is 512 megabytes. Now, memory is an interesting thing on this machine. We'll come to that in a little bit. CPU control performance support. Okay. Advanced. So we've got a 40 gig hard drive, got a CD-ROM here. This is a DVD-R, so it might be that it's not a CD-ROM, that it's actually a DVD writer or reader. LCD screen expansion, we're going to change that for yes feature. We're not going to have a network boot. Show the VAIO, I go yes please. Memory performance mode is normal or high. So let's leave it on normal because that will give us the longest battery life, it says. So the drive is a Toshiba MK404GAH. I've got a feeling that's one of those little 1.8 inch tiny things which are pretty not very performant. Now, one of the things about Sony and VAIO, their VAIO range, is that design was always a very important thing for them. And if you look at this, it's not purple, which is one of the things I really like about VAIOs. But if you compare it to the contemporary IBM, the ThinkPads around this time, like the similar sort of thing to this would be the X20, so it would be the X31 or the X40 would have been around the same sort of time as this. But the point is, the ThinkPads of this time, because ThinkPad design didn't really change very much, because it was always a black rectangular bento box type style, it's very hard to age an IBM ThinkPad. You can age it because of whether it's got an IBM or a Lenovo stick on it, so you can split it in half, but otherwise sometimes it's very hard to age a ThinkPad. But this looks pretty modern, and this is now 21 years old. I think they did a great job on the design of this. All right, let's turn it off and actually have a look at the machine itself. So on the front we have this plain black cover. It's got a slight texture to it. It does feel a bit plasticky. It doesn't feel as robust as the ThinkPad from the same era, but it's in very good condition, so it's obviously much better hardwaring than it looks. On the outside here we still have access to these media buttons. So what I think Sony was hoping was that you could pop a DVD in here, either watch it on the screen or then plug it into your home TV and use the media controls here to play the DVD. Pretty cool. This one looks like it's got the extended battery because there's a battery sticking out the back, so that's probably twice the capacity of the standard one. I'd imagine, even with a ultra low voltage Pentium M, I'd imagine the standard battery would have been very small and not last very long at all. Probably an hour and a bit, hour and a quarter, hour and a half maybe. Hopefully this is a little bit longer lasting, but of course being 21 years old, this may not have any charge in it at all. The bottom is very straightforward. There's the two catches for releasing the battery. We've got a dock adapter here. I don't have a dock for this. We've got the information sticker and our Windows XP COA. Nothing else really on the bottom to show you. There's a little vent here. There's no access panels for memory or hard drives, so to get at this machine you have to take it apart a little bit differently from normal, and that's just part of the miniaturization process. These rubber feet are still intact, they have not gone gooey, which is very welcome, Sony. Thank you for changing that. Across the front, there's no release as such, it's just the friction in the hinge. Down here you've got an indicator for the Bluetooth and the wireless LAN. And then over here you've got headphones and microphones. You've got a sound effect button. And then you've got a volume control. So that's very nice. Again, media kind of center type stuff going on here. Volume controls on the front, media buttons on the top and the back here. Talking of the back, the power button is here. You can just about turn that on with the lid shut if you wanted to. I suppose that would make sense if you're using it as a DVD player. And it's actually pretty much the size of a really compact DVD player. Got indicator here for battery, hard disk, memory stick, caps lock, num lock, etc. Indicator lights. On this side, it's almost entirely taken up with the optical drive, which in this case is a DVD read-write. Excellent. And I've got two little covers here. I'm guessing this is for the modem and for Ethernet. Yeah, those catches are a little bit fiddly, but nice that they haven't broken off after 21 years. Around the back you've got the power in here, 16 volts on this particular one, and then there's an opening here, an aperture. I presume that's the Kensington lock. On this side we have true VGA, which is nice, a single USB, Firewire 400, another USB, and then a memory stick slot and a PC card slot. It's got a blanking plate in it, not anything exciting, but this is pretty much fully loaded already. It's already got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, media controls, Firewire. What else would you want to put in here? Maybe some memory, maybe a IBM hard drive, who knows. So yeah, so even though it's super small and super light, it's actually pretty well kitted out. 2 USB ports, modem, Ethernet, audio, physical controls for media. It's actually got quite a lot of connectivity for such a small little gadget. I'm really loving this. What I need to do next is find out if the recovery media are available for this, or whether what's on there is the best that we can do. So unfortunately there are no recovery media for this on the generally available internet that I've found so far. If you have the recovery media for the VGN T1XP, please let me know. Or if you're feeling comfortable with that, please upload it to archive.org. That's where a lot of them are. That would be really useful for the T1 owners around the world. This looks like it's been kind of partially reinstalled. There are some Sony software on here. So we've got Norton Ghost, which I think is how this system was kind of put together. The DVD that was in this drive when we got it was basically bootable Norton Ghost for reinstalling this particular setup. We've got Sony Sonic Stage and Sonic Stage Mastering Studio on here. We've got the Sony Notebook setup. We've got all the drives installed. We've got the VAIO Power Management and VAIO Update. So we've got kind of some of the stuff on here that would have come with this originally. We've got none of the kind of wallpapers. At least I haven't double checked that, but let's have a look. Yeah, so none of the VAIO wallpapers are in the display settings there, so that's a bit of a shame. And it is missing some software. So for example, it's missing WinDVD, which I think was the DVD player that was originally shipped with this. So if you put a DVD in here, it doesn't currently play. So we're gonna just fix that with some Power DVD. I've also installed a set of diagnostics and benchmark tools on here. So let's have a quick look at those. So CPU-Z, everyone knows what that is, hopefully. So yeah, so running an Intel Pentium M Dothan, so that's the 2 megabyte cache version, so the last kind of revision. So yeah, level 2 cache down here, 2 megabytes. So it's running at 1.1 gigahertz, currently running at 600 because of the power saving, but it is a 1.1 gigahertz processor as shown there. And that's kind of the middle of the range that was available. I think it went from 900 to 1.3 or 1.4 gigahertz at the time, so this is kind of a mid-range processor. It's the ultra low voltage version though. The other thing that's interesting is the hard drive. So to get this machine as compact as it is, they've used a Toshiba MK4004 GAH, and that's a 1.8 inch 4200 RPM small hard disk, not very performant. It's only got 0.5 megabyte of buffer, and you know, they're not very quick at all. They are super efficient for battery, and that's why you find them in portable media players as well, like the iPad. But for a laptop, they're not super fast. That combined with the average processor makes this a kind of pretty sluggish machine for demanding tasks. But I've been using it with XP here and actually had no problems so far at all. Launch times for programs are pretty slow because of this hard drive, but it's actually slightly better than I was expecting. I have experience with a Dell D400, I think it is. They had the same hard drive, and that's pretty sluggish. This drive is showing caution because it's got some reallocated sectors on it. I do actually have 1 or 2 extra of these drives that I've removed from other things and replaced them with SSDs, and that is a possibility. You can get a converter to mSATA for these that fit in. Let's benchmark it. Let's just see how bad it actually is. So I'm going to use the default settings. That's a 1 gigabyte file. It's going to take a little while, so I'll do a jump cut for this.
2 hours later.
So there we have it. Throughput rates of 17 megabytes per second maximum. Bigger the queue depth, obviously, the worse it gets. That's not terrible. I mean, a desktop drive from 2004 would be doing 55 to 60 megabytes per second. A laptop drive, a 2.5 inch one, would be about 25 to 30, I would say, probably around this period. So you're talking about half the overall throughput, and because the rotational speed is low, quite a lot of latency as well. So what about other performance metrics? Well, I put DOSBench on here just out of curiosity. So for example, if we play Doom at maximum quality, so could you use this as a DOS gaming machine? That's the question. And it all suddenly seems to have had a bit of a crash. Not sure what's going on there. So perhaps not the best DOS gaming machine. We could boot it in DOS and run directly, but running through XP is not going to work, not very well anyway. Even with SBMU installed, the SoundMax driver on here might be troublesome for DOS gaming. But it looks like we're not going to be able to get any useful information out of those tests. We've got some very old benchmarks like Final Reality. Probably not worth running that. That's from 3D Mark 2000. So this machine's from 2004, don't forget. So 3D Mark 2000 is going to be hopefully very straightforward to run. But we've only got Intel integrated 855 graphics on this. So we haven't got a dedicated discrete graphics system. Let's see how Intel is doing in 2004. So in the low resolution helicopter test, we're getting about 70 frames per second. Most of the systems we've run this benchmark on, it maxes out at over 100. I can hear the fan ramping up a little bit, but overall it is a quiet machine actually. And in the higher resolution, in the higher quality test, it's running about 45 frames per second. We are going to try and run 3D Mark 2001 on this, but we may struggle to get any usable results. Okay, so we have a 3D Mark 2000 of 3,285. Not great for a benchmark that's 4 years old when this machine was released. I've got a feeling, let me have a little look. In control panel, I seem to remember seeing a power management option. Yeah, so here, and basically kind of overclock the GPU. So let's do the same thing again. So this is obviously to conserve battery power, but at the expense of performance. So that's, as we've got it plugged in and as the battery doesn't work, let's go for the higher power system. Looks like you've got to reboot to get this to work. That makes sense. Okay, let's see if that setting has stuck. So yeah, so we're running at the higher specification. So basically you can underclock the graphics processor and the memory subsystem. So let's run 3D Mark again and see how much difference that makes. Graphics drivers are completely out of the box. I haven't updated anything, just as it's come to me. But I think they are the most up-to-date Intel drivers for XP. Okay, so we're getting frame rates in the 80s and 90s now, so that has made a bit of a, what, 10%, 15% improvement. That's interesting. Again, we're going to do jump cut to the end because you don't want to see all this. Okay, so we have a significant uplift in the 3D Mark 2000 scores, nearly 4,000 now. So definitely worth using the, well, definitely not worth underclocking the memory and the CPU if you're going to be doing some gaming on this laptop. Let's try 3D Mark 2001. Now that is going to struggle quite a lot more. So in fact, are we going to get a slideshow or are we going to get something better than that? Okay, we're getting 35, 40 frames per second. This is the low detail version of the benchmark. The next one will be more telling, but this is actually putting up a decent performance. All these benchmarks run in a 4:3 aspect ratio. Don't forget the screen is a wide screen. So if you were playing a game on this in native resolution, you'd be pumping about an extra 20% more pixels. So yeah, not quite slideshow, but it was down to single figures just then, wasn't it? But it may be possible to play some games with the quality settings set lower, maybe playable at sort of 30 to 40 frames a second. Okay, we'll do jump cut to the end. I'll let you know if there's been any graphical issues. Okay, 2,153 marks, give or take, in 2001. That's pretty much what I'd expected, no real surprises there. A lot of the benchmarking was pretty slow, but it was all visually correct. There was no actual problems with the benchmark itself. It just ended up with a low result. Even at peak times, the fan was going full pelt, but it was actually pretty quiet. This is a quiet machine, actually. Okay, let's do 3D Mark 2003. Now, I'm not expecting it to be able to run most of this. Yeah. So we can only run the very basic one. So 3D Mark 2003 is a DirectX 9 based benchmark, and the chipset only really supports DirectX 8 features. So that's why it can only run one of the 4 benchmarks. But let's just give it a go, see what happens. So there we have it. The single test was run, and we've got 111 3D marks of 2003. Oh dear. So I thought that this chipset only is DirectX capable, but according to what I just read, it's DirectX 9 capable, but obviously it doesn't support all the shaded models that 3D Mark 03 wants. Okay, I think that's enough benchmarking. One thing the graphics chipset does do is DVD decoding, so let's get DVD decoding software installed and see if we can play a DVD in the way that Sony intended. As I said, I think WinDVD was what came out of the box, but we've got Power DVD in this case. So let's try a Sony DVD in the Sony laptop, see what happens. We go full screen. There we go. There we go, DVD playing perfectly fine on this little machine. I wonder what happens if we close the lid. Can we still get a video capture? Nope, it goes to standby instead. Okay, so I've changed the power settings so that when we close the lid, it should just carry on playing via the external connector. So yep, so it's playing on the screen. If I close this, it carries on playing on the video capture. I've not captured it because I don't want a copyright strike, but you get the idea. You can put your DVD in, plug this into your TV via your VGA cable, and watch your movie on the TV. So in terms of upgradability, there's not a lot you can do with these. The hard disk is this weird size, so you can put a 0.4 insertion force 1.8 inch converter to M-SATA, so you can put an SSD in here. It's quite a lot of hassle, and given that the battery doesn't work in this particular unit, we probably wouldn't want to do that anyway. The other thing you can do is upgrade the memory, although it uses a proprietary memory size. There's a very small little module here. It's about half the size of a normal SO-DIMM, and they're hard to come by. I've got one that's a PC133, but this takes DDR memory, so I haven't got one that fits in here. But that's pretty much the only thing you can do to this. But it's fully loaded already. You've got FireWire, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, a decent screen. The screen, by the way, is what Sony calls X-Black. It gives kind of extra contrast, and it is actually a really nice screen. I'm really pleasantly surprised by that. Again, that kind of fits in with the multimedia kind of aspect of this machine. In terms of the styling and functionality, this keyboard is a little bit cramped. It's a bit smaller than a normal keyboard, but it's reasonably well spaced. Half-size inverted T for the cursor keys, but you've got the same size function keys as you do for all the other keys. Double height enter, like we have in the UK market, and a full-size tab key. So it's actually a pretty decent keyboard and a reasonable feel. It's not terrible. It's not the best, but you could certainly type away for hours on this if you were using it back in the day. The battery life on this, allegedly, in Sony's marketing, is up to 5 hours. Different people have tested different numbers, but 170 minutes was the number I saw on one of the reviews. So that's just under 3 hours, which isn't bad, actually. Isn't bad at all. And that's with this double-sized battery. I don't know if there was a smaller battery than this one. In terms of the styling, it's quite interesting. And what do I mean by that? So this is 2004, don't forget. So in 2004, Sony were also selling this, which is allegedly a super thin and light machine, but with a docking base on it. You know, it weighs 3 and a bit kilos, I suspect, but it's functionally equivalent. It's got a floppy drive, but it's functionally equivalent to this machine. And you can see what improvements they made. It's significantly smaller front to back. It's the same width to get that screen in and the keyboard, but it's massively thinner. It's even thinner than just the standard laptop was, that is also available in the same market. And this includes an optical drive, and this one doesn't. It's a bit more like the original 505, which I have here. It's almost exactly the same width, pretty much the same depth, and similar in thickness. The original 505 is actually a little bit thinner, but don't forget this doesn't have an optical drive in it, and this one does. The widescreen has allowed them to use this kind of two-tone effect with the styling, which makes it look quite a lot smaller than the 505, even though they're actually almost identical in depth. So that's a nice bit of design. It's a bit like the 505 and the picture book had a baby. So overall, do I like the T1XP? I like it a lot. I think it's got a lot of things going for it. It's stylish, it's got a reasonable battery life for the time, it's fully loaded, includes an optical drive in a super slim package, and this doesn't weigh very much. It's probably about 1.3, 1.4 kilos, I think, maximum, with this bigger battery. For a Windows XP machine from 2004, this is pretty much state of the art. The only real problem with it is the slightly lackluster performance and this slightly cramped keyboard, but it is decent to type on. If you wanted an ultralight laptop around, Sony were making several different things you could have bought, but this is definitely one of them. Dedicated media buttons. It's kind of aimed more at the kind of media market that was kind of emerging at the time. Sony would have liked you to buy their proprietary memory stick, of course, but it does have USB and FireWire as well. It's a shame FireWire never developed so you could have video out from FireWire. Full-size VGA here is useful though. So I'm glad I've got this in my collection. I am definitely going to keep it. I'm going to be on the lookout for a battery that's working if possible, because that will make this machine actually pretty much usable on a day-to-day basis. It might be worth experimenting to see whether this is a good DOS gaming machine. The widescreen makes it a little bit tricky, and the fact that there's no Sound Blaster compatible sound card in here also makes it a little bit tricky, but there are software solutions for both of those. So there you have it, Sony's little media playing device from 2004, 21 years ago, as of the time of the recording of this video. What a great little machine. Super compact, super cool, lovely engineering, media functions built in as well, and has an optical drive in, which a lot of devices didn't have at this kind of size. I'll be keeping this, adding it to my collection. I think it's the kind of natural successor to the 505 range. If you saw my video about that, you know what I'm talking about. If not, have a look up here for a link to that video. Another video up here you may find interesting. We'll see you in the next one.